They tell us love belongs to the young, that desire fades with time, that after 40 a woman should learn to wait quietly, or not wait at all. But that's never been true. A 40-plus woman doesn't ask for love, she understands it, she has lived enough to know the difference between attention and intention, between noise and presence. She doesn't chase hearts, she chooses connection. In a world obsessed with speed, she moves with depth. In a world addicted to surface, she offers meaning. And that's why love, real love, leans toward her. Keanu-style love isn't loud. It doesn't rush. It sits beside you, listens, stays. And when it chooses a 40-plus woman, it's not settling, it's arriving. Today, we're not talking about age. We're talking about timelessness, about why maturity becomes magnetic, and why love, when it finally grows up, knows exactly where to go. She doesn't enter a room trying to be seen. She enters it already knowing who she is. That kind of knowing doesn't come from books or compliments or the way people look at you when you're young. It comes from time, from being disappointed and still choosing to hope, from loving deeply and losing honestly, from staying when it was hard and walking away when staying meant disappearing. Emotional depth is not dramatic, it's calm, it's steady, it's the ability to feel everything without needing to explain it to everyone. A woman over 40 has learned that emotions are not weapons or weaknesses, they are information. She listens to them, she respects them. She doesn't drown in them and she doesn't deny them. That balance changes the way love approaches her. Surface attraction asks, "What do you look like today?" Emotional depth asks, "Who are you when no one is watching?" A younger version of love is often loud, fast, hungry. It wants proof, reassurance, constant excitement. A deeper version of love is quiet. It pays attention. It notices the pauses between words, the honesty behind silence, the softness that survives after pain. A woman who has lived long enough understands that intensity is not intimacy. Consistency is. She doesn't confuse chaos with passion anymore. She knows that peace can still make your heart race, just in a different way. She has felt the kind of love that promises everything and delivers confusion. She has felt the kind of love that shines in public and disappears in private. Those experiences didn't harden her, they refined her. She no longer falls for potential alone. She looks for presence. Doesn't need someone to save her. She needs someone who can stand beside her without trying to control, fix, or impress. Emotional depth allows her to see people clearly, not as projects, not as fantasies, but as they truly are. This kind of depth is magnetic because it creates safety. Real love moves towards safety, towards someone who won't run when things get uncomfortable, towards someone who can hold a difficult conversation without turning it into a battle, towards someone who knows that vulnerability is not oversharing, it's truth shared with care. A 40-plus woman has learned how to be vulnerable without losing herself. She can open her heart without handing over her self-worth. She doesn't rush emotional connection, and she doesn't force it. She allows it to grow. Like trust, like respect, like something that matters enough to protect. Her emotions are not scattered, they are grounded. When she loves with intention. When she listens fully. When she commits, she does so with her whole presence, not half attention and fear. That kind of emotional maturity changes the atmosphere around her. Conversations feel different. Silence feels comfortable. Time slows down. Surface attraction fades when reality arrives. Emotional depth becomes stronger. It adapts. It forgives without forgetting. It remembers lessons without carrying bitterness. A woman who has lived knows that love doesn't mean losing your individuality. It means sharing your life without shrinking it. She has built herself piece by piece, sometimes alone, sometimes with help, always with courage. That self-built foundation makes her love stable, not fragile. She understands boundaries, not as walls, but as respect. She knows when to say yes without guilt and no without apology. Emotional depth gives her clarity. She doesn't play games because she doesn't need validation. She doesn't manipulate silence or affection. She communicates honestly, even when her voice shakes, especially when it shakes. That honesty is rare, and rarity attracts what is real. Love that chooses depth is not looking for perfection, it's looking for truth. For someone who can sit with pain without trying to escape it. For someone who can celebrate joy without fearing it will disappear. A 40-plus woman has seen enough to know that nothing lasts forever, and that's exactly why she cherishes what is real when it's here. She loves with gratitude, not entitlement, with awareness, not illusion. Her emotional depth allows love to rest, to breathe, to stop performing and start being. There is no pressure to be younger, louder, more exciting. Third, E is permission to be authentic, to age, to change, to grow. Love recognizes this space as home. Because real love is tired of pretending. It's tired of proving. It wants to arrive somewhere it can finally be honest. She doesn't need fireworks every moment. She understands the beauty of steady light, the warmth of consistency, the quiet joy of being chosen every day, not just in words but in actions. Emotional depth teaches her that love is not something you chase, it's something you allow when it aligns with who you are. And because she knows herself, love knows where it belongs. She carries stories in her eyes, not wounds on her sleeve. She doesn't demand understanding, yet she offers it generously. She knows that everyone is carrying something, that compassion matters, that kindness is strength. This depth makes love slow down, pay attention, listen better. It changes love from an experience into a connection. Love that chooses a woman like this isn't trying to relive youth. It's choosing meaning. It's choosing someone who won't disappear when life gets quiet or difficult. Someone who understands that love is not about being entertained, but about being seen, fully, honestly, without masks, without fear. She doesn't announce her strength. You feel it when she doesn't react to what once would have shaken her. Quiet strength is not the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of it. It's the pause before responding, the decision not to argue with disrespect, the ability to walk away without needing the last word. A woman over 40 has learned that strength doesn't need witnesses. It only needs integrity. She has been underestimated before, reduced to roles, expectations, lines that were never hers to begin with. Instead of fighting every misconception, she chose something harder: self-respect. She stopped explaining herself to people who were committed to misunderstanding her. She stopped shrinking to fit spaces that were never built for her growth. That decision changed the way she stands, the way she speaks, the way she loves. Self-respect shows in what she tolerates, and more importantly, in what she doesn't. She no longer negotiates her values for comfort or companionship. Loneliness taught her that being alone is better than being diminished. Experience taught her that attention without respect is empty. So she raised her standards not out of pride, but out of clarity. She knows what it costs to ignore her inner voice, and she refuses to pay that price again. Her strength is calm because it's rooted. It doesn't need to dominate or control. It doesn't prove itself through aggression or volume. It lives in consistency, in showing up when she says she will, in keeping promises to herself, in choosing long-term peace over short-term validation. That kind of strength creates a gravity of its own. Love moves toward it instinctively because it feels stable. She respects herself enough to rest, enough to say no, enough to take her time. She understands that worth is not measured by productivity, sacrifice, or how much she gives away. She no longer confuses self-abandonment with love. She knows that love built on depletion cannot last. So she protects her energy, her time, her emotional space, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. Quiet strength also means she doesn't need to compete. She doesn't compare herself to younger women, louder personalities, or idealized versions of beauty. She has made peace with her reflection, not because it's flawless, but because it tells the truth of a life lived. Lines become stories, changes become evidence of survival. She carries herself with acceptance, and that acceptance becomes confidence. Self-respect shapes the way she loves. She doesn't beg for affection. She doesn't stay where she has to convince someone of her value. She doesn't accept inconsistency as mystery or emotional distance as depth. She knows that love should feel clear, not confusing, safe, not destabilizing. Her standards are not demands, they are reflections of how she treats herself. She speaks honestly even when it's uncomfortable. She doesn't weaponize silence or use affection as leverage. Her communication is direct, grounded, and intentional. She understands that respect begins with truth, that avoiding conflict at the cost of authenticity only delays pain. So she chooses clarity even if it means facing loss. That choice strengthens her sense of self every time. Her quiet strength allows love to relax. There's no performance required around her, no games to decode, no emotional chaos to navigate. She brings steadiness into connection, not control, but reliability, not perfection, but accountability. Love recognizes this as rare because so many connections are built on insecurity rather than respect. She doesn't need to be rescued. She has already carried herself through storms. That doesn't make her closed, it makes her discerning. She welcomes partnership, not dependency. She wants to walk beside someone, not ahead of them, not behind them. Self-respect means she values equality, not intends it disguised as passion. She knows her limits and honors them. She knows her needs and voices them. She knows her worth and lives accordingly. This isn't rigidity, it's alignment. She bends when growth requires it, but she never breaks herself to keep someone comfortable. Her strength is flexible, not fragile. Quiet strength is visible in the way she handles disappointment. She feels it fully, then releases it without letting it define her. She doesn't chase closure from people who can't give it. She creates her own by choosing dignity. That choice deepens her self-trust, and self-trust is the foundation of every healthy love. Love that chooses her is not looking for drama or dominance, it's looking for someone who knows herself well enough to share her life without losing it. Someone who understands that respect is not a bonus, it's the baseline. Someone whose strength doesn't intimidate, but reassures. She doesn't demand admiration, yet she earns it through the way she lives, through restraint, through grace, through the courage to remain kind without being naive. Her self-respect is quiet, but it fills the room. It sets the tone. It teaches love how to behave in her presence. And because she respects herself, love has no choice but to do the same. She no longer loves as if time is running out. Urgency used to whisper that she had to decide quickly, hold tighter, overlook more than she should. Fear once convinced her that love was scarce, that opportunities disappear if you hesitate, that being chosen mattered more than choosing wisely. Experience taught her otherwise. Love that is rushed is often love that is afraid. Love shaped by fear asks for guarantees, timelines, promises made too early. She learned that real connection doesn't need to be chased or trapped. It arrives when two people are ready to meet, not when one is desperate to secure a future. A woman over 40 understands patience in a way youth cannot teach. She has waited through seasons where nothing seemed to move, where answers didn't come, where life asked her to trust without evidence. That waiting didn't weaken her, it expanded her capacity to sit with uncertainty. She knows now that love doesn't respond well to pressure. It closes when pushed, retreats when demanded, so she allows space. Not distance, but room to breathe. Room for truth to surface naturally. She doesn't fall in love with urgency because she's no longer afraid of being alone. Solitude taught her that peace is possible without romance, that her life does not pause while she waits for someone to enter it. This freedom changes everything. When love appears, it's welcomed, not clung to. It's explored, not consumed. She doesn't attach her identity to being wanted. She knows who she is with or without partnership. Fear once told her that if she didn't hold on tightly, she would lose everything. Now she understands that what is meant to stay doesn't require force. She doesn't monitor messages, read between every line, or create stories where clarity is missing. She trusts patterns over promises, actions over words, consistency over intensity. Love without urgency moves at a pace that reveals truth instead of hiding it. She has learned that fear-based love often disguises itself as passion. The highs feel intoxicating, the lows devastating. That cycle once felt like depth. Now she recognizes it as instability. Love that is calm used to feel unfamiliar, even boring. With time, she realized it was safety. It was respect. It was two people choosing each other without panic, without manipulation, without needing to constantly prove desire. A woman who has outgrown fear doesn't rush intimacy, emotional, physical, or spiritual. She understands that closeness earned slowly lasts longer. She allows trust to build naturally, layer by layer. She watches how someone handles disappointment, silence, disagreement. She pays attention to how they treat others when there is nothing to gain. She doesn't hurry the process because she values the foundation more than the outcome. She no longer fears losing love because she knows she can survive it. Loss once felt like failure. Now it feels like information. She knows that endings don't erase the meaning of what existed. They simply show where alignment ended. This perspective frees her from holding on too long. She can let go without bitterness, without self-blame, without rewriting herself to be more acceptable. Love without urgency is grounded in trust. Not blind trust, but earned trust. She trusts herself first, her judgment, her instincts, her ability to walk away if needed. This self-trust removes desperation from her love. She doesn't need reassurance every moment. She doesn't fear pauses. She understands that healthy love has rhythm, connection and independence, togetherness and individuality. She allows people to reveal themselves over time. She doesn't project fantasies onto them. She doesn't rush to fill silence with meaning. She lets reality speak. This patience protects her heart not by closing it but by guiding it wisely. She understands that love is not an emergency. It's a choice repeated over time. Fear once made her compromise. Urgency made her overlook red flags. Now calm allows her to see clearly. She doesn't interpret mixed signals as mystery. She doesn't excuse emotional unavailability as depth. She doesn't confuse longing with compatibility. Her love is intentional, not reactive. She has learned that love should add to her life, not consume it. That it should feel supportive, not destabilizing. That peace is not the absence of passion, but the presence of trust. She welcomes love that grows slowly because she knows slow growth is strong growth. Without urgency, love becomes honest. There's no rush to impress, to promise, to define everything too soon. There is space to be human, to be imperfect, to be evolving. She allows relationships to unfold instead of forcing them into shape. Fear once told her she had to hurry before it was too late. Now she understands that what arrives late is often what arrives right. Love that chooses her is not racing against time. It is moving with intention. It is choosing depth over speed, meaning over momentum, presence over pressure. She doesn't fear silence anymore. She doesn't fear pauses in communicatio or space between meetings. She understands that connection doesn't disappear just because it's quiet. In that quiet, truth becomes clearer. She listens, she observes, she allows. Love without fear feels steady. It doesn't spike and crash, it builds, it strengthens, it becomes something that can be relied on when life is unpredictable. She offers this kind of love because she has become this kind of person, and because she is no longer afraid. Love no longer feels like something she has to chase, protect, or secure. It feels like something that meets her where she is, walks beside her, and grows at the pace of trust, honesty, and mutual choices. She doesn't perform love. She shows up for it. Presence is not about grand gestures or constant expression. It's about being fully there when it matters. A woman over 40 has learned that attention can be loud and empty while presence is quiet and full. She has experienced what it feels like to be with someone who is physically close but emotionally absent, and she knows now that proximity means nothing without awareness. Presence begins with listening, not waiting to respond, not preparing a defense, not filtering words through ego or fear. She listens to understand, not to win. She listens with her whole body, her eyes, her silence. This kind of listening makes people feel seen without being exposed. It creates space where honesty doesn't feel dangerous. Love recognizes this space immediately. She no longer tries to impress. Performance once felt necessary, like love required effort, constant proof, a polished version of herself. Over time, she realized that performing is exhausting and unsustainable. It creates connection with an image, not a person. So she stopped. She allowed herself to be real, even when real was quiet, tired, uncertain, or unfinished. Presence replaced performance, and what remained was truth. She understands that being present means being emotionally available, not emotionally overwhelming. She doesn't flood connection with intensity or withdraw into distance. She stays, even in discomfort, especially in discomfort. She knows that meaningful relationships are built in moments where it would be easier to escape. Presence is her way of choosing connection without losing herself. A woman who values presence doesn't multitask her relationships. When she is with someone, she is with them, not divided by distractions, not half attached to the past or future. She offers her attention as something sacred. This doesn't mean constant availability, it means intentional availability. When she gives her time, it is real. When she gives her word, it is considered. She has learned that love doesn't need to be dramatic to be deep. It doesn't need to be broadcast to be valid. Some of the most meaningful moments happen quietly. Shared silence, small routines, unspoken understanding. Presence allows these moments to exist without being rushed or labeled. She honors them by not turning them into performances. She doesn't confuse chemistry with connection. Chemistry can be instant, addictive, performative. Presence is slower, grounded, revealing. She chooses the latter because she knows chemistry fades when reality arrives, but presence strengthens. It adapts. It holds space for change. It allows people to grow without fear of losing connection. Presence also means accountability. She doesn't disappear when things get difficult. She doesn't avoid conversations that matter. She understands that showing up includes showing up for hard truths. She is willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of honesty. This reliability builds trust, and trust deepens love. She no longer seeks validation through being desired. Performance often comes from insecurity, from the need to be chosen again and again. Presence comes from self-worth. She knows she is enough without constant affirmation. This allows love to relax around her. There is no pressure to impress, only permission to be authentic. She respects boundaries because presence requires respect. She doesn't invade emotional space or demand access. She understands that closeness grows through mutual willingness, not force. She allows others to be themselves without trying to shape them into what she needs. This freedom invites genuine connection. A woman rooted in presence notices details others miss, changes in tone, shifts in energy, what is said and what is avoided. She doesn't interrogate these observations, she holds them gently. Awareness makes her love attentive, not suspicious, curious, not controlling. She understands that love is not about being constantly exciting but consistently real. Performance burns out, presence endures. She chooses to be steady rather than spectacular, honest rather than impressive. This choice changes the quality of her relationships. She doesn't rush moments to mean more than they do. She allows experiences to be what they are without forcing narratives. This patience creates clarity, it prevents illusion. Love appreciates this grounding because it removes pressure and replaces it with ease. Presence also means being present with herself. She checks in with her own needs, emotions, and limits. She doesn't abandon herself to maintain harmony. This self-presence strengthens her external connections. When she shows up for herself, she can show up for others without resentment. She doesn't perform happiness to make love comfortable. She allows vulnerability to exist without apology. She knows that real connection includes imperfect days. Presence allows both joy and struggle to coexist without threatening the bond. Love that chooses her doesn't feel like a stage. It feels like a place to rest, a place where masks can come off, where words don't have to be rehearsed, where silence is not awkward but meaningful, where being is enough without doing. She offers this kind of presence because she has learned its value through absence, through moments where she felt unseen, through connections that required constant effort but gave little back. She chose a different way. Presence becomes her language of love. Not loud, not performative, not demanding, steady, aware, intentional. It teaches love to slow down, to notice, to stay.